So today's talk is called The Structure and Chaos in Tantric Sex. And this is very exciting. This is primarily a topic out of my book, The Divine Union of Masculine and Feminine. But the other aspects that are interesting to think about actually come out of this book, Tantric Intimacy. About, what does it really mean to have tantric sex? What is that, as opposed to sort of the regular procreative, we haven't done it in a while, that kind of thing. So that's a great book to start with if you want to really go deeper into what this tantric sex idea is. But today, we're specifically focusing on one dynamic that's called structure and chaos. And if this is a new idea to you, this masculine, feminine in this way, there are other pairings like giving and receiving, protector and vulnerable, pursuer and pursued, that kind of thing. And what's different about understanding the masculine, feminine when the desire is connection and union is they do not fall into the same patterns as the stereotypical gender ideas that we've had for the last, millennia, perhaps. So why do we want to talk about this? So very often when we think about sex, we ask ourselves, why do we even have it? Well, maybe it's just enjoyable. Well, how is it enjoyable? Well, it's enjoyable really because I'm horny, or I want to get lucky, or I want to maybe connect with my partner, or maybe that's just strictly procreative urges. And we don't even know why we want to do it. We just know we want to do it. And I have someone here that wants to do it with me. Awesome. Maybe it's just fun. Maybe it's because I want to get to sleep tonight. Who knows why? Exploring structure and chaos in intimacy changes everything. So structure and chaos doesn't really belong in kind of the fun, monkey sex, whatever animalistic thing. It's not really like that. When I say animalistic, I just mean procreative, whether we want to have babies or not. But when we explore structure and chaos in duality with two people, we explore expansiveness. How can this human body expand and become even bigger? How can I actually expand my consciousness? Exploring structure and chaos is empowering, especially for the masculine partner. This is where the masculine partner really finds out who they are. It's the feminine partner that explores the expansiveness, but to understand that we are in this together. So it's almost like we as a unit are going to explore empowerment and expansiveness. The feminine partner is taking the expansiveness side. The masculine partner is taking the empowerment side, but the energy is flowing into each other. The wonderful woman, Gina Murray, who painted the front of my book, if you see the yin-yang symbol, I asked her if she could create a three-dimensional, moving yin-yang symbol that flowed in and out of each other, constantly energizing, constantly informing the other. And that's what we're talking about. And we are talking about this in pure polarization, which means what you kind of come together and you're sort of both your own masculine, feminine, yin-yang symbols, totally whole. And then as you come together, there's a certain magnetism and a certain dance and a desire to merge. Well, we can't stay in our wholeness if we want to merge. We have to start to polarize. And so the one who desires to be in the feminine starts to release their masculine, and the one who wants to be in the masculine starts to release the feminine, and slowly a larger yin-yang symbol is created, and then that energy starts to flow between you. So this is quite a different idea. So first we need to talk about the feminine. And this is what we're basically going to do, is we're going to break down all the different aspects of the feminine, how the masculine responds to that, and vice versa. And then at the end, we're going to talk about, okay, so practically, what does that mean? This is great theory, but okay, so now I'm with my lover. Now what? So the very word chaos can feel scary, can feel crazy. It can feel, so uninhibited that it makes everyone uncomfortable. It can feel destructive because we use chaos like that, oh, the chaos. Like I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened in New Orleans years ago, and the newspapers would be like the chaos, the wrath of Katrina, this kind of thing, which was funny based on my name being Katrina. The hurricane's not funny, but all the newspaper headlines were. So we often think of chaos as being a negative, but to understand that part of this patriarchal domination paradigm we've been living in oppresses the feminine. It says chaos is bad. Chaos is bad. Oppress it, control it. So when I first say something like structure and chaos, our first thought might mean, oh, so I use the structure to control the chaos, right? Like I need to limit the chaos by strong structure. And it's actually completely opposite. It's actually loving the chaos of nature, loving the chaos of who we are, loving the chaos of the creative process inside of us. And then the masculine structure coming in to support that, to manifest, to create from that chaotic pool of, wonder and possibility. So this is very different. So we're going to talk about chaos in the feminine, mystery in the feminine, the unknown, and wildness. And those are the basic dynamics we're going to talk about here. So if you are in the feminine and you are tapping into chaos in lovemaking, what does that mean? So imagine here you are naked with your lover, and you want to access the chaotic side of you. Well, chaos in many ways just simply means there's no structure here. This is a volcano. And not in a bad way, not in an angry way or a destructive way, but in the natural way that things come out of us, that anything's possible, anything at all. There's no rules, anything. So if you're like me, initially that kind of makes me go, oh, well, that's kind of scary. Like I can't, what if I do something weird or I make a funny sound, or what if I'm not really sexy, or what if they don't like it? Because I think my brain is holding all these rules saying, okay, well, here are the acceptable things to do when you're making love. Here are the acceptable things, in my case, being a woman. But this dynamic applies to all orientations and all genders, depending on who your partner is, right? So being a woman, being in the feminine, it's like, oh, but what if I make a funny sound? What if, I can't just let go? That'd be crazy. I might burp or fart or scream or do something crazy, and this is a real concern because we've all been raised, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have been raised in sort of this puritanical idea of everything must be so and so, right? Like I had a good friend once who, her partner, like she was just letting go one day, and she just started letting her body make all kinds of sounds. She wasn't doing crazy things. She was just letting her body sound naturally. And later, as they were sort of cuddling, her partner made fun of her. Wow, that was crazy, stuff coming out of you. I mean, oh my God, that kind of freaked me out, to be honest. And today, in our current consciousness and our current maturity, we might be able to look at that person and say, huh, you have an issue. You have issues with chaos. You have issues with the feminine. You obviously are repressing your own feminine or whatever. But she was younger. And, I certainly would have taken that very personally. And she completely shut down and was afraid to make sound after that. She controlled her chaos after that. But imagine tapping in to like the creation energy of the world. So you literally just let anything rise. Everything is good. And this is where, as much as when we talk about tantric intimacy, we often talk about what happens when you have that deep connection, that deep plugging in, and the sort of the magic. In the last video, we talked a lot about, what can happen inside a yoni and in this octopusy idea and all these wonderful things. But that's in the giving and receiving video. But it doesn't always have to be like that. Chaos can be anything. Maybe it is crazy monkey sex for a little while. Maybe it's oral sex. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's lying still. Maybe it's crying. Maybe it's who knows what it is. That's what chaos is. So now, imagine you're the masculine partner. What do you do with this chaos? It's not about controlling it. It's not about making it smaller. Well, we have to become bigger. We actually have to stay alert. We have to become stronger in ourselves so that we can match whatever comes, right? This is the warrior heading into battle, not that it's a battle, but heading out there and having no idea what's going to come. So you are ready for everything. And again, it's weird to say it in a battle context, but what that means is I'm ready. I'm here. Let's do this. Let's play. And so the feminine is always feminine. We don't have to become feminine. If we're having issues with being feminine or accessing chaos, that's because we have rules placed on top of us. And it could be from the church. It could be from our families that say a good woman or a good person doesn't do that. That's the only thing. Because if you're just simply in your feminine, you're in it. Imagine you were lying on a beach somewhere and there's nobody around. It was just you. And you were just adjusting yourself in the sun and you were just rolling. And again, you may have enough self-judgment that wouldn't allow you to do this. But imagine you just got to stretch and do whatever you wanted and roll around and jump in the water and just do whatever you wanted. That's the feminine chaos. It's not crazy. And then the masculine will play with that. Now, if there's a Vajra in the mix, so Vajra is Sanskrit for thunderbolt, and it references the penis. If there is a Vajra inside, while the feminine is in this chaotic state of, and it's wild. It can be really wild. It can be very still, but it also can be very wild. This is where the masculine partner must develop mastery of their Vajra. That they're not just out in the wild and, oh my God, I'm so horny. Because we're kind of designed that way, right? That it's the quicker the better, because, you might get attacked by something and you're pretty vulnerable in coitus, So it's a pretty fast thing. So you really have to develop your own consciousness here. You have to actually bring down your human ability, your consciousness, your frontal cortex, your infinite self down into the body, and bring that consciousness into your Vajra and say, this is part of the lovemaking. I am the structure to the chaos. I am stillness within. And the passion, the excitement inside of that is how we have to become stronger to match the chaos, right? We have to be ready and we have to be alert and aware. Now, just even think about that. Think about what it feels like to be so connected to someone, or to have someone so connected to you. And we are assuming that this is a loving connection, that you are attracted to this person, like this is a tantric connection, right? So this person who you are so attracted to, you are so in love with, and their energy is 100% focused on you, and it's in pure love, no judgment, and all they really want is for you to be 100% you. Right? You can almost feel that energy coming into your heart and animating your body and mind. Right? It is so powerful. And the more the feminine feels this strength and connection and intention and focus on them, it's like it just lights the body up. It's almost like if, I don't know, I have some picture of like a Ferris wheel and suddenly someone plugs the plug in and all of a sudden it sort of comes to life. That's what it's like. Suddenly the body wants to move and the body wants to be touched in a certain way and the body wants to do things because of this energy coming from the masculine, right? This Shiva energy now flowing into Mother Earth, right? And then as that energy goes in, I'm just using the word she just for simplicity. She starts to kind of flow in that chaos, and the masculine continues to adapt, continues to meet whatever comes. This is so empowering. It's empowering for both people because the feminine partner gets to go into those undiscovered corners. It's empowering for the masculine because it's like they're gathering all of their strength into one place, into one stillness, into one focus. And from that place, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So the next thing in the feminine is wildness. If you can hear little feet walking around, it's my son's puppy. Wildness, speaking of wildness. So what does it mean to be wild? So wildness is part of chaos. Wildness is simply being connected to nature. It's being connected to our inherent nature. If you think of horses in the wild, they're not running around, climbing trees, banging into each other, having orgies, doing weird stuff. They're just being horses. The difference is they are not tamed. Wildness is the lack of being tamed. So why did society tame us? Because we distrust the feminine. We don't want people, or whoever it was, the powers that be, didn't want people acting according to their own innate nature, right? We can't have people just doing whatever they want. We need to be able to control them. So we tame them in the same way as we tame a horse, right? We can't have a horse just going off into the field forever and never coming back. A horse won't want us to ride them unless we break their spirit, right? We have to make sure that they are afraid of us. We have to shame them. We have to guilt them. Now I'm talking about humans, but we have to do whatever it takes to make them abide us. And a lot of it's fear, because the masculine in this case, whoever is taming the horse, wants to be in control. They're afraid of the chaos. They're afraid of nature. They're afraid of the horse. And of course, there's many amazing people who work with horses now that have realized that this isn't necessary. You actually can be a positive, healthy masculine and communicate with the horse and work with the feminine, work with the wildness, and you end up with an incredible bond. So very often, if we talk to the feminine person now in intimacy, can we access our wild self? Do we even remember who that could be before we were tamed? And this is really interesting because it means overcoming any programming we have. We are tamed, especially as women, but it applies as definitely to men too, especially to men who prefer the feminine polarity. We are shamed if our bodies don't look quite right, and that makes us smaller. We are guilted for having a sex drive. Oh, you're always so horny, and oh my God, you have all these, gross and disgusting desires all the time. And, the number of people that have even said to me, like partners or men that I've dated, they're like, wow, you like really like sex, eh? And I'm like, yeah, just like I like food and I like sunshine. But it was like a huge deal, like, wow, you really like sex. It's like, yeah, like, not sure why that's a bad thing. But there's a lot of shaming that's been used to tame our sexual desire. So for the feminine partner, it's a really big deal to be able to access our wild side. And all it is our nature. Who are we really? And it could be even silly things like, am I naturally extroverted or am I naturally introverted? Do I love music when I'm making love? Do I love candles? Do I feel comfortable allowing my body to flow where nature's asking me to flow without someone saying, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that. Farmer's going to get mad, you know? So it's interesting how the masculine matches wildness, because in many ways, when you feel that vibe, because of course you're connected, we're talking about polarization, but we're also connected. And when the masculine feels that wildness flowing out of the feminine, there's something lovely inside that happens. And it allows the masculine to also feel that flow, feel that wildness. But at the same time, they can also have consciousness and be a bit of a rudder. And so while the wild is flowing, it's kind of like you're on a raging river. And of course, a raging river, it's funny that we use the word rage, but on a really active river, really exciting river, you might want to ride that river. You might want to flow in it. So you're in a canoe and you're going to have a paddle in it. You're not going to paddle against the river. You're not going to change the river, but you might put a rudder in so that you can kind of navigate this river. And that's a very interesting thing, to navigate a river, to navigate the feminine without changing her, just to navigate it. Whole other energy. And so now I want to talk about the unknown and mystery. Because the unknown and mystery is also the feminine. This is chaos. This is wildness. One of the number one characteristics of these is you don't know what's coming. It's a mystery. Now, just for a moment, imagine every one of us here, all gender, all, whether you like the masculine polarity or the feminine polarity, just imagine for a moment this body, this life, this incarnation that we are in. This is beyond a mystery. Who we are, how we live. No matter how much our brains have created little sounds that we use to identify arm, nose, pancreas, nervous system. All we're doing is making sounds to identify that I see something. I can observe certain flows and I can observe certain patterns in the body. But the bottom line is, our bodies are absolute mysteries. No one understands how they really work, the multidimensionality about them, whether we are carrying ancestral trauma, epigenetics, karmic patterns. Who knows what's really being carried in our bodies and what we're working through in our minds, in our spirit, in our emotions, all those good things. We are a mystery. This is a reality. So now imagine, for the feminine, diving into our own mystery. Not bringing any preconceived ideas of who we are or who we want to be or any personas that we've created about ourselves, which could be anything from I am always a sex kitten to I am a nun and pure and I only have pure intimacy if I have it at all and I'm only sacred or whatever. Whatever persona you have, it's a limited construct because you're an infinite being. You are all of those things. You are it's sort of that you are the nun and the whore, and you are the sun and the moon, and you are all the things. Imagine allowing yourself to dive into that mystery, unknown, and allowing yourself to flow in it. Now, in the masculine, what does the masculine do with mystery? Well, this is where you go on an adventure. You discover new lands, new experiences. One of my favorite movies when I talk about this is the movie Moana. It's a kid's movie, but it's not a kid's movie, if you know what I mean. And of course, she discovers that her people were adventurers on the sea, and they would go out in boats And they wouldn't know where they were going. They weren't going to that island that they always go to. They would head out into uncharted territory and see what they could discover. This is the role of the masculine here. This feminine partner that you're with is different than the last time you made love. Whether you are brand new to each other or whether you've been together for 40 years, they are a different person. The universe is different today. They've had different realizations. And there is something about allowing someone to be a mystery. You know, it's one of the great challenges in family, in our families of origin, because we tend to hold people in the patterns of their childhood. You know, we had all these years, these decades growing up together. And then all of a sudden we move out. Maybe we get married. Maybe we travel. Maybe we open businesses, and I don't know, we have illnesses and we have realizations and aha moments, and we've meditated and done yoga and we've changed. But then we go home and they assume that they know who we are. They assume that I am always that 14-year-old girl who, whatever. I'm always that 20-year-old who did something, right? So that actually creates a container and doesn't allow me to be mysterious. So as the masculine partner, when you actually look at your partner as if you've never seen them before, it's almost like sometimes we can actually project our expectations on someone based on who they were previously, which can keep them in a box. So now instead, you look at them with brand new eyes. You have never touched this person before. Maybe you've never touched anyone before, because sometimes we project past experiences with other people onto new partners. What this does, when we do this for someone, it gives that feminine partner the freedom to be new. It gives that feminine partner the freedom to dive deep into something that maybe neither of you have ever seen. So as the feminine dives into this mystery, the masculine is the one discovering it, and it's exciting, right? The masculine is seeing this and saying, whoa, this is amazing. Wow. And as they're getting really excited about it, the feminine is diving into another mystery. And then this is discovered, and another mystery and another mystery. And it's really, really exciting. Imagine lovemaking like this, embracing chaos, rising to every challenge, embracing the mystery, the unknown, and our actual natural untamed selves. Imagine the dance and the energy between the two people. This is way beyond, I just want to have a ejaculatory orgasm. Way beyond. And even that's really interesting because we don't know anything about sex in our society, because religion has oppressed it and not allowed to talk about it. We default to this procreative model where in the male, an ejaculation and orgasm are the same thing, but they're actually very different, you know, in very similar ways that they're different in a woman. You know, squirting or whatever is all very different than an orgasm, and it's very different than an orgasmic state. So what happens is when you have procreative sex and it's just like go, 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 go and explode, the orgasm and ejaculation happen at the same time. But when you start as the masculine or the man really bringing consciousness into the Vajra and stillness, and you actually have mastery over that part of your body, suddenly both people are able to experience something else. It's kind of like if you imagine the earth. Imagine the vibration of the earth, the rumble of creation, whatever you want to call that. In yoga, sometimes they'll say that the sound Aum is the prime vibration of the universe. Now, if you really go inside of yourself and you chant that sound and you feel the vibration in the body, imagine maybe sitting in a room with 100 people and they're all chanting this sound and the bodies are vibrating. Now imagine that as an orgasmic state. Imagine breathing through that vibration and letting that vibration run all the way through your being. That's what we're tapping into when we tap into the chaos, the wildness, the unknown. And when the masculine electrifies that vibration in the feminine, that is where we share an orgasmic state. It's an entirely different experience. It's almost like taking an ejaculation and instead of releasing it out, almost just feeling that energy of it just dissipate through your whole body, but it doesn't stop, right? It sort of flows through every cell of your body and it just stays vibrating. This is a whole other thing. And again, I'm saying this and I'm not saying it in order to say, okay, well, now that's what I have to have experienced. That's what I want to experience the next time. That's not it. But just to understand that that is the energy of the feminine that we're playing with here. And both people experience it when you're in union. So, what does this mean practically? Right? Let's just say, let's begin with kissing. And you kiss this other person like you've never kissed them before. Like this is your first date. This is the first time your lips have ever touched this person. Imagine. Imagine the natural excitement that rises. It's a funny thing because one of the hard things about how we've intellectualized sex is we think we have to do things. We think we have to have ideas for sex. We think we need to have, we need to create energy and horniness and stuff. So we need to maybe watch porn, or we need to masturbate, or we need to do whatever. We need to get myself excited, you know. But if you actually sit with this person whom you love and adore and are attracted to, none of this works if you're in a relationship where you're not attracted to the other person. It's not pretend sex where you can just get drunk and get off. This is tantric intimacy where you're connected because you love this person. You trust this person. And you sit across from this person and you look at them and imagine that this is the first time you've ever seen them. And you're going to lean over and you're going to kiss. The energy will naturally flow. There will be excitement and butterflies and dilations of various parts of the body. It's natural. There's nothing we have to do. And this is the other interesting thing for both people to also explore that chaos within and to trust it, to just let go. Similarly with touching, imagine you're just going to touch someone. You're just going to caress them. First of all, you've never touched this person before. You've maybe never even touched another person in this way before. And the person receiving the touch has never been touched before either. So now all of a sudden you have no preconceived ideas, positive or negative or anything, and you actually just release into it and feel the touch. You trust your natural responses. You trust that whatever rises is great. You allow your body to move as they touch you, right? You don't have to just lie there. You can actually flow with it. You can make sound. The body loves making sound. Like we've been taught, I don't know, maybe it's all the years in school that we weren't allowed to make a noise. But we actually love making sound. And even if it's something very natural, like someone touches you and you go, oh, and it's almost like you just open that gate, that sound comes out when it wants to, right? It's not, we're not making sound. We're not like, like we're not making sound. The sound naturally just comes out, no matter what you're doing, whether it's slow and gentle lovemaking or wild and really high energy lovemaking or whatever, to allow the body to move and flow and make sound, both people, right? And the other really important thing to do, especially in the land of touch, and especially for the feminine partner, is to remember to breathe. Because very often, if we're sort of feeling super orgasmic and we're getting really excited, we'll actually stop breathing. It's almost like we're trying to get balance inside of ourselves and we're trying to create stillness. So if I stop breathing, I stop feeling, and it's like a control mechanism inside. And then, but if as soon as you start to breathe again, you trust that this other person has you, and you start to breathe, all of that orgasmic energy will start to flow through your whole body. And it can be really overwhelming in the most exciting ways. But breathing is a really big deal. Movement, sound, and breath. Very important. And the last thing I'm going to mention is, let's say you do insert something into your partner as the masculine partner. And this could be a toy, it could be a Vajra. The key is that, again, whether it's the toy or the Vajra, imagine it's not that you're a battering ram. You are the center of their chaos, right? And it does, and I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do with it, but your consciousness is stillness. Your consciousness is connection to them, because this is about polarity in union, right? If it's a Vajra, of course, this is where we must develop mastery, right? If you want to ejaculate, awesome. It can feel fantastic, and it can be the absolutely most perfect, wonderful thing. But just to know that that is the tip of the iceberg. Ejaculation is one option, but we really want to be able to bring that Vajra into our whole consciousness and be able to control it or guide it in the same way that I guide my hand, picking it up or putting it down, right? That it's not disconnected from me. And I don't know where that comes from, whether it just comes from, again, what I said about in nature, right? That you just do it as fast as you possibly can so that nothing attacks you, or whether it is a mental thing that we've actually disconnected from it because we were taught it was wrong. It was evil. It was the source of original sin, and that men's sex drives are dangerous, or who knows why we have this curious disconnect from it. But to gather that back together, to reconnect ourselves, to bring our consciousness into it, is so empowering for a man. And it changes how you walk in your day, how you work, how you create. It changes everything, not only just in lovemaking. So, thank you for being here. And I'm going to put my glasses on, and I'm going to answer any questions you may have about this. As an empath, it seems difficult to let out all the chaos in fear of connecting in a way that seems to be a violation of my partner's privacy after we part. How can we allow this openness to let the energy flow without over-connecting? Can you give an example of that? Because I'll just chit chat for a minute, but chaos is about someone else, right? Chaos isn't saying something about our partner. Chaos isn't letting loose and saying something that would ever violate anyone. Chaos is just our response in the moment. It's like walking down the street and feeling the sun on our face, and then tripping in the snow and saying, oh, right? Like, it's just us expressing what is, but it's not ever about the masculine partner, right? It's never about them. It's kind of like when people say you have to use feeling words when you talk to someone, and someone says, well, I feel like you're being a jerk, or I feel like what you did was wrong. That's not feeling words. Feeling is, I feel really distant right now. or I can say I feel attacked, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the other person attacked you. It just means that I feel that way. But we wouldn't say these things in lovemaking, right? So I'm very interested to, like, if you have a, for instance, I'd love to know. Because I do think we have a lot of fear. And I'm not really sure how you would overconnect. I'm not sure what that would look like, because for me, the goal is total connection. Hi, Bill. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. It seems that after great closeness, it seems I have a knowing of of them days later. Maybe it's a different conversation, but that this happens when you finally feel free to be fully free. I don't know if this is what you mean, but I once wrote an article called "If We Make Love, I'll Be Able to Read Your Mind." And I used to run into this problem all the time, because I would be dating someone and we would have sex and it would be all very deep and beautiful, because I don't really like having just normal sex. I like to have tantric intimacy where you really, really connect, right? And before, I didn't actually understand what was happening, but we would be lying there afterwards, and all of a sudden something would come out of my mouth, and the guy would be like, "How do you know that?" And I'd say, "Well, I don't know. It just," and sometimes they get really mad. But that happened more often. Um, it happened more often in, like, kind of one night stands or guys I was just dating, because what was really interesting is I always was like that. But it's sort of like if you teach yoga or you teach spiritual things, it's actually what people come to you for. Or if someone wants to have a private session with you, they actually want your intuitive knowledge. They actually want you to use your empathic ability, and not to read them, but just to be together with people and just flow with it, right? And of course, with my children, I always used it to try to understand where they were coming from or what was really going on if they couldn't explain it or they didn't want to or whatever, right? Right, because I've been in their energy field. Exactly. And so I never got into trouble for it before. You know, it wasn't ever a bad thing. But then all of a sudden I'd meet some guy and we'd end up making love, and they didn't actually want me to read them that way. And I actually talk about this actually in Tantric intimacy, that I realized that I had to be kind of careful, because sometimes people would trust you and they would let you in, but they actually weren't ready to drop their guards like that. It's sometimes shocking when you're a really open person how many people aren't, right? Many people keep their cards close and don't have trusting, loving, non-judgmental relationships with people. So if you suddenly get in there and you somehow get beyond the barrier, we have to be very, very careful, especially if we don't know them that well, to keep those to ourselves. You know, and I've even had it in other relationships, is that I've had men, obviously because heterosexual, but you know, you'll be like in the throes of passion, and maybe you did make funny sounds, or maybe you did this, or maybe you did that, and then they will they'll kind of call me on it afterwards. They'll kind of oh wow, you really did this and this and this, and I really noticed this about you. And it's almost like they can start to analyze you or something. And I feel, and I'm an open person, and I feel violated, absolutely violated, right? I opened my heart to you, I opened my body to you, and now you're going to analyze what you saw inside. And it's like, and I just tell them, never comment on what happens during intimacy. What happens inside that belonged inside of that. We were responding to each other. I don't want to be analyzed afterwards. And that's a really big deal. And it's an interesting boundary even between friends or between parents and children, that if we see someone's vulnerable side, that we never call them on it. You know, we may know someone's deep dark secrets, and we may know their struggles, but we have to let each other have our struggles. You know, we have to let people be themselves without jumping in. And so you bring up a great point about being very trustworthy in intimacy on both sides, because I've done it and people have done it to me, where I just feel like, wow, I do not feel safe around you anymore. You know, and even if we did make love again, I would be contracted, and we would probably just have sex, because there's no way I'm opening myself to you again. If you're going to, it's almost like if you actually weren't 100% in it, like if you were 100% in it, mind, body, and soul, you wouldn't have noticed anything, because you would have been flowing with the energy of what was happening. But if you were actually distant at any point, that you were actually watching and recording this in your mind, I don't want to make love with you, right? I don't want someone who's sort of backing up to watch the freak show or something. Because if you're in it, it won't feel like a freak show. It'll feel like something wild and mysterious and exciting. It's very interesting. What you say is true. As an empath, I don't go around reading people's energy fields unless they ask me to. Yeah, it's a real discipline. And it's interesting, like, just as an example, we live in a world where it's normal to have our guards up, right? In the book, Mutant Message Down Under by Marlo Morgan, you know, she interacts with these indigenous people, and they talk about how everyone is naturally empathic and telepathic, and to read each other's minds is as given as being able to see what someone's hair color is. Like, it's so natural and easy. But in our society, because we are raised in judgment, we actually have to put up guards. We have to put up walls to other people, because not only do I not want you to read my thoughts because I'm afraid of your judgment, I can't read your thoughts either, because I'll be judgmental, or I'll take it personally, or whatever. Like, that judgment piece blocks all of our intuition, our telepathy with each other. But now imagine, because especially as a world, as a consciousness, we are shifting into being much more empathic and therefore more telepathic. So now imagine we actually need a whole new set of rules. Let's say you walk down the street and you can read everyone's mind. Everyone. You know exactly what everyone's thinking. You know exactly what everyone's feeling all the time. What could you do with that information? What should you do with that information? Right? Because they didn't say this to you. They didn't share it with you. You just looked in a window and saw it. Well, we would develop an entirely different set of rules where we would actually ignore it unless it was brought to our, it's like I don't read people unless they ask. And so it's almost like what someone else thinks of us, it's that old saying, what someone else thinks of me is none of my business. That's how it has to be, unless they ask. And then we can it's so interesting. You can have all of these experiences with someone, a lover, a child, a parent, a friend, a million experiences that you've never commented on because they didn't ask. I have wonderful people in my inner circle of friends, my kids, my ex-husband, my partner, wonderful people. And I have empathically and telepathically observed many, many things in them. And I'd say 80% of those things observed have never been spoken. They all just live within me. It's almost like they're just part of the fabric of my relationship with them. But every so often, they'll say, I'm so struggling with this. I don't even know what to do. What do you think? And then it's like you close your eyes and all of this knowing of this other person that sort of worked into the fabric of your being shows you something. And you say something. Is it this? Is it that? I've noticed this before. That's interesting. Of course, all in kindness. Everything is said in kindness. And then you're able to access it. But it's almost just like you're just putting it away for winter. And maybe it disappears out the back. Maybe it becomes irrelevant, or maybe it stays relevant. I don't agree about having to be asked. I feel vulnerable at times in the outside world and for my highest good, and others need to be sensitive to others. I'm not sure what you don't agree with, but because that's kind of what I'm saying is that people should never be making other people feel vulnerable, right? They should never, we should always exercise Japanese privacy around people. So I don't fully understand what you're saying. Because it's true, like some people are extremely overbearing, right? But that's not a healthy thing. That's just a domination control thing. There's a movie about that. What Women Want with, what's his name? People feel vulnerable when they feel vulnerable. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because part of the journey of this masculine feminine dynamic is the first thing we have to do is have a healthy masculine feminine inside, right? That's the most important thing. That all the time, I am always working on this healthy masculine feminine within myself. Because the challenge is that if my inner masculine is actually the voice of an authority, a judgmental authority, then what's happening inside of me is that what I would call masculine, it's not really masculine, it's sort of disconnected and unhealthy, but is actually judging the feminine. And so then what happens is we go out in the world and that's what we experience, right? We experience that same dynamic and that same sense of feeling judged and misunderstood and all that. But when we deeply look at that masculine inside and we say, what if you loved everything about me instead? What if you supported and edified the feminine instead? And we would also allow ourselves the freedom to feel whatever we feel without judgment. And then when we go out into the world, we experience that. So it's a very interesting thing to play between what I experience in the world and what I experience within, and kind of go back and forth with those things to kind of use it as a way of healing inside as well. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This was wonderful. And again, if you want to go deeper into the masculine and feminine, definitely check out my book, The Divine Union of the Masculine and Feminine. If this idea of tantric intimacy is interesting, this is a wonderful place to get started. And this also talks a lot about kindness as a foundation for connection, in all connection. It's really important. Can you check my question above? I don't see another. Can you rewrite it, Christy? I don't see another question. I have noticed that when my yoga practice is strong, my sexual energy increases. Is this something you have observed? When I'm comfortable with my body and open to the divine energy, magic happens. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because in yoga practice, it's a beautiful play of the masculine and feminine, right? You have this wonderful structure in the masculine. And like, let's just pretend, like, let's play with hatha yoga. I teach Kundalini yoga, which has the same dynamic, but hatha yoga is easier to see. So imagine you hold a posture, and the posture becomes this strong masculine stillness, and you settle in that. And as soon as the feminine, the body, feels comfortable in that structure, the body will then relax and breathe deeply. And there's this beautiful interplay. And then maybe there's pain in the body, which is the feminine. So the masculine adjusts. And then the feminine flows again. So yoga allows this beautiful interplay of the masculine and feminine, which definitely creates union within, right? YouTube deleted contents. Oh, because of comments, because of the word soup. Soup is sex. Darn it. Oh, awesome, Tom. When we are comfortable in all we are, both masculine and feminine, we can be at ease. Totally. Yoga and meditation definitely keep the sexual energy flowing, life force energy. Definitely. I mean, like, I teach Kundalini yoga, which basically releases any blocks in the Kundalini energy, the sexual energy, the life force energy within us. So it definitely keeps the energy flowing. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you're new to me and my books and teachings, definitely head to my website, katrinaboss.ca. Join my newsletter. I send out a weekly newsletter of upcoming trainings and talks and articles and videos and fun things. And so thank you so much for being here. Conversation with partner about the difference of tantric intimacy. Most people haven't been exposed to this. I used the other word, not soup, and my whole comment disappeared. So I guess we have to use the word soup from now on. Or maybe we have to spell it backwards. Maybe that works. So Christy, are you asking, how do you have a conversation with a partner about the difference between tantric intimacy? Because most people haven't been exposed to this. Well, it's a conversation I've had so many times, right? Because, I was married for 20 years and then I was single for 10. And I had that conversation a lot with new partners. And I would basically just say it like that. I'd say, I'm really into Tantra. Oh, what's Tantra? And I'd say, well, at its core, it really just means that we deeply connect, right? That we actually have an emotional connection, that our hearts connect. And in terms of intimacy, it's not just to get off. It's actually about connecting and union and an exploration, and it actually allows us to expand as humans. And most guys that I've experienced, and nothing against guys, maybe there's lots of women who would respond like this too. They kind of go, really? Oh, that's interesting. And sometimes it's very unnerving because now they feel like a virgin, right? Now they feel like a fish out of water and they don't feel comfortable anymore. And they're kind of maybe even afraid to go forward. And if you feel that in them, just say it's actually not hard. And the cool thing is there's no rules. And it's almost like just starting over. It's like being teenagers and almost pretending like we don't know anything. Because people would be exceptionally intimidated because I teach Tantra, right? Like, oh, great, now I have some Tantrica, I'm going to feel like an idiot, right? And so there is a way to kind of say, it's really not like that. It's actually easier and more fun than you think. And you just sort of make it easy, but then you make it easy. And you just sort of play with it from there. Thank you guys. This has been super fun. And we have another talk next Wednesday. I think we have 3 more of these scheduled. So actually, if there's specific topics about tantric intimacy, whether it's actually about the masculine, feminine, or it's about tantric sex, I would love for you to make a comment, not in the chat here because the chat disappears, but to make a comment on the eventual video, and then I can plan some more talks because I'd love to go deeper into this. So, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.